And you're live.
Welcome, Summa Scholars. Good morning. Welcome to the Daily Summa. Today is Friday, February 14th, the fifth week in Ordinary Time in the memorial of Saints Cyril and Methodius. I don't really celebrate this memorial as an actual feast day, but it's worthy to note that it is the celebration of Cyril and Methodius. I like that name, Methodius.
Yeah, Mary Kate was trying to convince me to name one of the children Methodius.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, no. I'm sure he's great and all, but that seems
Yeah.
rude.
It seems rude to put the kid out into the world and named Methodius.
Right, exactly.
I see that point. I see that point. I can see. I was picturing my Uncle Ralph if he
Like, what
heard
do you
a
shorten it to? Meth, like methy. Like what do we
method. Yeah.
method?
Hey, that's a good DJ name, though.
DJ Method. That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of cool, actually.
I
See,
mean, if
you
one of my
missed a
kids was
big
a DJ,
chance.
I might jump off a bridge. But yeah, totally. That's
what if, what if he makes really good beats? I don't know.
I mean, if they're
I,
really, really good, I guess.
I was going to send it to you actually. There's a Instagram of my buddy Joff, who was in Sideshow Tramps with me, as some people know and some people don't. But he put a video on Instagram of he was sitting there. I think it was with Sarah Van Buskirk, but no, it was somebody else. It was somebody else. But anyway, he was sitting there doing beats, and he had like his thing in front of him. I can't remember what it's called, but and he's just like going at it with his Joffrey face and like a big furry hat on and his overalls. Oh, Joffrey, it's good stuff. I mentioned my old friend Sarah Van Buskirk. She's a musician from Houston. Did I tell you about her T-shirts? One of the best musician T-shirts I've ever seen in my life. I think I told you about this.
Maybe,
Her
maybe.
name is Sarah Van Buskirk, and her T-shirt just has a van and then a bus and then a picture of Captain Kirk. Van Buskirk.
Van Buskirk is good.
Yeah, it is. So, friend, I decided to take a vacation day after
Okay.
my it's whatever day. So, uh, I can tell that I told you that I was going into a thing, right? Where I'm like
Yeah.
felt discombobulated, and I could tell I've started to come out of it yesterday. Uh, just all of a sudden, um, I became more emotive. I can tell when I'm going into a whatever they talk about uh, lobster going under the rock to shed its skin. You know what I'm talking
Right.
about? I don't know why I always look over at the screen at me. It's like I want to see your face there. I want to. You get to see me. I just see this piece of black.
Oh yeah, I get to. Yeah.
This piece of black.
Yeah.
Oh, Joe. But anyway, yeah, lobster under the thing, shedding skin and or shell, whatever. I can tell when I'm going into it because I become less responsive to the dog.
Oh, I
I
see.
hope
Yeah.
I should do damage control because I know how goofy people are. They hear I'm less responsive to the dog and they're like, "You're not taking care of the dog anymore? You don't feed the dog? You kick dogs?" No. I'm saying that I can tell usually I'm like, "Let's go, girl." I'm like really in it. And then when I'm going to the thing, the dog is like following behind me, tail wagging, and I'm not even conscious of the dog there. And then I'm like, I'm sorry, Daisy, I got stuff on my mind. we can't we can't get excited over nothing right now. Sorry, I've got stuff to do. uh so yesterday, just all of a sudden, I'm back in it. Let's go, dog. We're having fun. I'm singing songs, but I decided to take another day today. I looked at my vacation things that I click off, and I haven't used a single one of them this year.
Hmm.
So anyway, That's where I'm at, and had a good night last night. And because I was on vacation, I watched a couple videos. And in God's wild way of doing things, he taught me a lesson. And it was so beautiful. It's that I still have to process it, but I'll just throw it out there real quick for you. And then we'll get into question 4. By the way, everybody, we're in a whole new question. All that difficult stuff that we just went through with divine simplicity, question 3, all these new terms about symposiums and what's not, and hylomorphia things and all this, we're done. That was a hard question. Divine simplicity is difficult. Today's question is the perfection of God. Larry is asking whether God is perfect. What do you think the answer is going to be, Joe?
Most assuredly, yes.
Yeah, good guess. I mean, on the Scantron, it's just 2 bubbles.
Right.
Yes or no. But yes is the correct bubble. God is perfect.
For sure.
That's what Thomas is going to say. But you might be asking, why are we spending our time asking if God is perfect? Of course he's perfect. Well, I'm here to tell you, Larry, Ralph, Shimon, the gang, they've got questions still. Thomas doesn't want you to just believe it like, God is perfect. God is perfect. He wants you to understand why we believe that. And also, as I've said before, he's going to repeat a bunch of concepts, which is like the signet ring going into your mind, making it more and more firm. You guys, if you're watching this more and more, and I know some people have told me they've been binge watching it. That's nice, isn't it, Joe?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
To a certain degree, if you want to do it, no one's going to stop you. But it's probably better just to start off with the most recent one and then just roll
Agreed.
with it.
Watch the live one. Watch the one for today, and then once you've done that, go back and watch other ones. But you got to stay with us, man. This is live. Stuff's happening. An army could go running behind me right now with AK-47s. What can we do? It is possible. It's one of the potencies that, although not probable, I would say, but it is possible. Okay.
By the way, we have Germ in the chat.
What's up, Germ? I'm about to talk about Deborah Ann Wall, if you know her, the actress. She was in some kind of zombie movies that I've never watched, or TV show that was really popular. She's also a dungeon master. But anyway, we're now in question 4. Good to see you, Jeremy. Well, I don't see you. Good to know you're here, Germ. Question 4 is a lot easier, divine perfection. And the reason we're asking the question is to repeat our learning so that we learn it more and more. You guys who are following this more are learning more than you realize you are. There's things that now sound simple to you and repetitive that when this first started, when you first entered the threshold of this adventure, you knew nothing of these things. And now they're becoming boring to you. That's good news. That means you've learned. That means you're now getting into the world of Thomas Aquinas and the Summa. This thing that was once a big mysterious, what's he talking about thing, is now slightly less mysterious. Like a great D&D 5-room adventure. Have you ever heard of this concept of the 5-room adventure, 5-room dungeon, Joe?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I'm sending you a video today on it then. Something that someone started recently, but it's basically a way of storytelling, but physical layout. A way of storytelling, which is what's happening in the Summa. It's a big story of our departure from God, his exhale, us going out into potency, going out into the chaotic tohu vavohu universe, finding our way, getting lost, getting sorrowful, getting in darkness, then the light coming, the call to adventure, then being brought out to salvation, and then being entered into Christ, and then eventually at the sound of the trumpet, being brought back into our first home, but changed and transformed into the deiform soul. Oh, what an adventure. Can't get better. There's nowhere to go after that. It's, you
Mm,
might say, perfect. See what I did there, Joe?
I do see.
Today is the question on the perfection of God. But here's the thing that God led me through circuitously yesterday and strangely, and I'm still processing. So Deborah Ann Wall is an actress who I don't think I've ever seen her really act, but I've seen her do. She's a dungeon master, and so she did this show in which she ran a game, and she was really good dungeon master. She was also a guest on Critical Role and did really well. So I see this interview with her, and I watch it, and it's very emotional interview. This dude who I guess she acted with in this TV show, uh, really, you could tell they respected each other, and they went into deep questions of her childhood trauma, and that she's crying in this interview, and she's saying that she doesn't consider herself beautiful, and she just can't see because she's now in magazines and TV shows, and she's called a sex symbol. She's like, she goes, yeah, but in my mind, I think it's just the lighting and the camera and the angle, and it's all a fraud. That I really am ugly. And
Mm,
then she talked about people like they gave her in school, they made her sit in this one certain chair, like ostracized from the other kids, and this was like at 12, and they had nicknames for her. You know what I'm saying? She was bullied, picked on, and
right.
like now she's wealthy, famous, sex symbol on magazines and stuff, but she can't get there. To herself, she's that ugly little girl that everyone's making fun of, and it's so crazy because this guy she's with, this other actor, you can tell he seems like a UFC fighter type, you know,
Mm,
and he's got like, yeah, he talks like this, and yeah, no, but he's a sensitive guy and really smart. But that's the effect that he has. Oops, Miss Monsieur Jean Baptiste must not like this story. I don't know why I need to pick him up. It's completely unimportant. Oh, maybe he wants to go on an adventure with me. But the point I'm getting at is it was heartbreaking. And what was crazy is you could tell this guy didn't have any of those experiences in life. Like this guy was
mm,
not picked on. If anything, he picked on people. And you could tell that the interview started off with him talking about how honored he was to be around her because on every set they act together on, everyone kind of looks to her like she's the big dog. Like she's not in the pecking order of producer and everything, but in the pecking order of charisma and
right.
intelligence. He was like, you must know you're the smartest person in the room. And she goes, I just don't like to think that. He goes, you're smart. She goes, well, I mean, I am proud of my intelligence if I can use it to help people and stuff. But the point I'm getting at is everyone looks up to this woman. But in her mind, and she's sitting there crying, telling this story, in her mind, she's just that ugly little duckling that's made to sit somewhere else away from the class. And that just blew my mind, I guess, kind of, that these I have a song called You Broke My Heart Like the Day That Elvis Died. I don't know if I ever played it for you. I've never recorded it, but it's a fun song. But one of the lyrics is childhood wounds run deep. The mountain of love, it is steep, and the wounds of childhood, they run deep. And
Mm,
we should be sensitive to that, I think, when you're dealing with people. And the other thing that she said that blew my mind that I'll be processing for a while is she talked about how she brings all of those feelings out when she is acting. And when she reads a script, this is the main thing I want to get to, and it's going to apply to the Summa too. When she reads a script, no longer for her is it about the words. The words are almost insignificant. She looks at the words, she memorizes them, but then she says, what does this character think and feel? And she goes into this deep layer beneath it. And she's just kind of using the words as a means to bring up all of these parts of the character that she's created. And I remember back in school in St. Thomas in university that I started hanging around actors for many, many reasons. I had studied in psychology, things about social skills and acting and stuff. And so I wanted to learn from these people. So I just started kind of hanging around them to observe them and became friends with them, obviously. Joffrey was one of the actors there. Uh, they would talk about their character as if they had created it. And I was like, what are you talking about? Shakespeare created it, or Tennessee Williams created it. And they were like, no, he just wrote these words. We're the one turning it into a character. And through the years, I saw what they said. I came out of that stupidness, that darkness that I was in, and I realized that they are actually two actors can take the same words and it's way two different characters. And they can bring stuff up in with using those same words that the other actor could never get to. And so that is a light, a showing of the difference between the masculine and feminine aspect. Like the words are just the armature, the skeleton that's carrying this deeper context of the feminine that's coming up like that whale from underground and expressing itself in ways that are not anticipated. The skeleton is sure.
Mm.
It stays there secure and sure. But that which is on the skeleton can morph and change. Someone's body can get larger or smaller, or they can get burned, God forbid, or whatever. They can start gaining muscles, which, by the way, dude, carrying these buckets of water and stuff and like working through the snow, crunching through this horrible snow right now, this freeze, my legs start burning. And I'm like, man, Lord, this is kind of rough. And then the other day, though, I looked down and saw the muscle popping out on the leg. I'm like, oh,
Mm.
I see what you're doing, Lord. I see what you're doing. Ah, working to get the bride. I get it. Nice. Good one, Lord.
It's a good
But
one.
that was a good one, Dave. But Deborah M. Wall, yeah, very enlightening about the depth that's in every person and how that can be expressed, like the whale coming up, um, and that the straw, the straw, and the fire, and the bird under the staircase thing. These words are like the script. These are all straw. It's up to you and your prayer. How much time you dedicate to prayer and silence will determine what goes upon the skeleton of these words, how well you act it out in the world. The difference between a really great actor like Paul Newman on that movie, The Hustler, that we watched, or Tevye uh, playing, what's his name? Yoga, the actor's name. But these
uh,
actors,
Topol.
Topol, yeah, playing Tevye. Topol plays Tevye. But these actors, it's the ability they have to connect to that trauma and then bring it out to the world. That's the dove under the staircase. Remember, it says, who's the one the Lord approves? The humble and contrite man who trembles at my word. That word tremble, you can see in it an intimation, a hint of trauma. The dove is down there
Mm.
trembling, and this brings down the divine lover. And once they consummate, then there's another type of trembling that can take place. The way I
Mm.
read that is, and you know the rabbis love to read, show the different ways that God meant things in Scripture. The way I read that is, first there's the trembling that's like trauma, and then there's the trembling, and then if you call out to the Lord, humble, contrite, then He comes down to save you, and you embrace, and then it's the trembling of two lovers in their embrace.
Mm.
All right, let's go on to question 4.
All right, we're at 20 minutes, by the way.
Dude, that's so perfect. It's usually about 15, 20 minutes at the beginning of this thing. Thank you, Lord. All right, St. Thomas, pray for us. Let's go. Question 4, divine perfection. Let's hit it. Having considered the divine simplicity, which was very difficult, Thomas, we treat next of God's perfection. Now, because everything is so far as it is perfect, it's called good, we shall speak first of the divine perfection, second of the divine goodness. Okay. Concerning the first, there are 3 points of inquiry. 1, whether God is perfect. 2, whether God is perfect universally as having in himself the perfections of all things. 3, whether creatures can be said to be like God. Article 1, whether God is perfect. All right, Larry, coming out of the gate. Let's see what Larry's got. Can we
Oh,
put up
Larry.
Can we put up a picture of Larry real quick? I feel like we haven't seen Larry in long enough time.
Yeah, let me see about this real quick. I have to get up this thing. Let's see. Let's find the right Larry
But while
here.
you do that, that reminds me of something I wanted to tell you about my mom said about your work here in the show. And
Okay.
also, yesterday, I was sitting making coffee out there and I had a sudden realization. Yesterday, I asked you to pull up our logo, as you see depicted here. Do you remember when I asked you to pull up the logo?
I do. Yeah.
And when I said that, it was immediate. I said, "Can you pull up the logo because of something I was talking about?" And it just immediately, almost the words hadn't even come out of my mouth. And I realized you anticipated me. You could tell I was probably going there and you were at the ready.
Hmm.
And then that made me think of being in the Sideshow Tramps with Joff and the band. What happens when you're in a band is you start being able to anticipate what the guy's about to do. And so the music, and it blows people's mind too, sometimes when you change up a song and you do it all of a sudden, but the other guy anticipates and everyone does it at the same time. It's like you're moving as one being. That's one of the cool things about being in a band, as Germ would know. My buddy Jeremy watching this is in a yacht rock band. If you guys don't know what that genre is, look it up. But it's basically music you would listen to if you were sitting on a yacht. And the name of the band is the Illuminati. Oh, that's good. And we've got Larry, the beaver on
Yeah,
the
there's Larry.
galleon up here. Yeah, it's galleon rock and yacht rock would be very different things. But
Probably.
the
Yeah.
Illuminati. But very good, Joe, and how you anticipated it, and it made me just feel our friendship all the more.
Oh, thanks,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah,
I
it's
feel it
beautiful,
too.
dude. It's beautiful,
It's
dude.
beautiful.
My mother wrote me and said, "Tell Joe he's doing an amazing job. The stream
Oh,
looks so good."
thanks, Craig's mom. That
Yep.
means a lot.
Her name is Patty of Pat's Healthy
Thanks,
Bakery.
Patty.
But yeah, and I also am amazed. And I know I've told you, but I'm still amazed. Like I never thought this thing would look this good all of a sudden like this. That's you. This, doing this is me. How
Yeah.
this looks there, that's you. Good work, Joe. Awesome. Objection 1, it seems that perfection does not belong to God. Oh, Larry, come on, dude. For we say a thing is perfect if it is completely made, but it does not befit God to be made. Therefore, he is not perfect. Larry, you're just goofy, dude. But hey, we've got to explore every possibility. You know how they say there's no stupid questions?
Yeah.
That's not true.
Yeah, that's correct. That's true.
Objective 2. Objection 2. Further, God is the first beginning of things, but the beginnings of things seem to be imperfect, as seed is the beginning of animal and vegetable life. You do understand why seed is the beginning of animal life, right, Joe?
Yeah.
You know how things work.
Yeah.
Therefore, God is imperfect. Ralph, it's funny though. It's like when you begin a statue or when you begin writing a song, it's imperfect. And God's the beginning of everything, so he must be imperfect. Pretty good, Ralph. Objection 3, Shimon. Further, as shown in Q3A4, God's essence is existence. But existence seems most imperfect since it is most universal and receptive of all modification. Therefore, God is imperfect. Existence is, we are all participating in existence, as he showed earlier, and our existence is changing. We grow older, we die, the donkey goes back into the earth. Existence in this world is changing, and that's most imperfect. So, since God is existence itself, he must really be imperfect. On the contrary, it is written, be ye perfect, as also your heavenly Father is perfect. Boom, game over. It's over.
That's it. That's the whole stream.
That's it. That's the whole sugya. I hope that one of our brother Yaakov watches this one day, which they never would, almost certainly, but perhaps they might late one night with a bag of Doritos. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're like, "Did he just say sugya?" It would be so weird. I wish I could see the reaction of
Right.
just dropping a word like that out of nowhere. Okay, Thomas's respondio. I answer that. As the philosopher relates. Who's the philosopher, Joe?
Aristotle.
Indeed. As the philosopher
Right here.
relates in the metaphysics, some ancient philosophers, namely the Pythagoreans and Leucippus, I thought about looking this up, and then I thought, you know what? I just don't. It's whatever. These guys, we've all heard Pythagoras. He's got this theorem that everybody's heard about. But and of course we studied him at the University of St. Thomas, of course, blah blah blah. But Thomas is going to get on these guys. They did not predicate best and most perfect of the first principle. I love that. What's the first principle? Good answer.
Sorry, asking me.
No, dude, I was asking Daisy, the dog.
Well, I don't. Yeah, you have
Yeah,
to.
I was asking you. There's nobody else here.
Sorry, bro.
Except,
Listen. I'm fixing a problem. You're gonna have to answer that
okay,
one yourself. Sorry.
that's fine. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. He's talking about the first principle is God, or the first mover, the first thing that starts all this off. And they didn't say best and most perfect of that. So the reason was that the ancient philosophers considered only a material principle. They were materialists, not Aristotle, of course. Some of them were materialists. And a material principle is most imperfect. In the realm of matter, or what the Kabbalists would say, malchus, in the realm of the visible to our senses, um, the material principle is the most perfect in the beginning. I'm kind of jumping ahead to one of these objections, but that's how the material world works. In the beginning, it's most imperfect, and then it grows into it moves into act. For since matter as such is merely potential, the first material principle must be simply potential, and thus most imperfect. That's what I just said. Now, God is the first principle, not material, but in the order of efficient cause, which must be most perfect. Remember, this is going back to the famous 5 ways, which will always be repeated. So much is built on that foundation of understanding. God is the efficient cause. Remember what an efficient cause is. Like Michelangelo working on the statue of David. Michelangelo, and his hammer and his chisel are efficient causes. They are what is making this thing what it is. And then there's a final cause. He has in his mind, like that famous saying, I just see the David in the statue and I just keep knocking stuff away until he comes out. Simple as pie. Why are you guys so impressed with my David statue? I just saw him in there, and all I did is just moved all the stuff out of the way that wasn't that. So simple. That's Michelangelo's famous quote. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but David is the end telos, the end result, the goal is to have that statue of David. The formal cause, we're talking about Aristotle's four causes. The formal cause is the marble. The material cause is the marble, and the formal cause is the form that he puts it in. The efficient cause puts it in. Excuse me. And so God is the first principle, and he's not material, but in the order of efficient cause. He's the one moving the thing with a view in mind of David at the end. That's why it's important to realize that Thomas's 5 ways are not separate ways. They all work together as an explanation, as a demonstration, perhaps. But that's why it takes so much time to really grasp what he's saying, and you shouldn't feel bad if you don't understand it. It is difficult to understand because you have to remember what's being said about the first way once you get to the 5th way, because they relate to each other. The efficient cause, the guy, Michelangelo, making the statue, has in his mind his purpose. And the 5th way of Thomas's 5 ways has to do with purpose in the universe, direction. Everything is moving towards a purpose. So if you don't know the 5th way yet, you've only heard the first way, it's going to not make full sense to you. You have to hear it all and then turn it around in your head, like we said, as our Blessed Mother did. She pondered these things in her heart. And then an epiphany can come, and the penny drops, and you finally get some connection. But this has to be done over and over. That's why we have the Daily Summa instead of the daily Netflix or the daily YouTube, like I love to watch so much.
Even though we are on YouTube.
Oh, I love YouTube, dude. I love it. The thing is, you grow in grace. Even though I did the vacation thing last night, I watched very few videos, and I went to sleep at a reasonable hour. A year or two ago, I'd be up till 3 in the morning. And I would probably be eating, But anyway, we grow in grace. That's very important. Remember what we read yesterday from Brother Lawrence. She would move faster than grace. That's such a thing to be careful about. It leads to scrupulosity. And yes, I'm looking at you, my friend. Scrupulosity. When it's a pride thing, but you don't see it as pride. You think it is, I want to do what God wants me to do. I just love God so much. But really what you want is to be perfect all of a sudden, so you don't feel like a schmuck all the time.
Yeah.
That's what you want. You don't want to feel goofy, but we are goofy. The Hebrew word for body, your body, is goof. That's why I like that word goofy so much. The etymology doesn't connect, I don't think, but it just so happens that the Hebrew word for your body is goof. So when someone's goofy, they're acting in this way of poetically tying them together. They're acting like a body. They're being carnal instead of spiritually minded. They're being goofy. And it's important to note this also. This is a really important thing. Pay attention, everybody, right now, if you've drifted off. Jeremy, if you're off just enjoying your coffee right now, just pay attention real quick. Something happened back in 1700s, 1600s, 1700s. Francis Bacon, father of modern science, which is still science. This is all science, but he comes up with the scientific method, and it's grown and developed from there. But Bacon wanted to. So he said, "Why don't we just get?" He knew Aristotle's 4 causes: efficient cause, material cause, formal cause, and final cause. He was like, our considering of things that we're studying when we're trying to figure out the final cause and the efficient cause is causing a lot of problems. Why don't we just drop those out and only worry about the formal cause and the material cause? And then science took off. That's very interesting. what they did was, you can see how this leads to the modern way of view of scientism, as Bishop Barron likes to call it. Take off the purpose of don't worry about the purpose. What's the purpose of these rocks we're studying? What's the purpose of light? What's the purpose of storms and vortexes? What's its purpose? Don't worry about that anymore. What's the efficient cause? How is God holding it together? Don't worry about that. Just study the material cause, what it's made of, and the formal cause, how it's moving in time. And that's what modern scientism is. They don't realize it, that they're the recipients of a teaching, and they're following in the way of what Bacon did, and then how others very much perverted it. But they don't realize that, but that is exactly what's happened. If those men hadn't made that decision, these modern scientists who are atheistic would still be looking for efficient causes and final causes and thinking about how this all fits in the divine plan. But because Bacon said, let's just remove those, it's simpler to just focus on the material and then how it moves through time. And that's why this stuff is so important, guys. I've told you this before. This is all connected. We're not just floating here in 2025, separated from 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago, 800 years ago with St. Thomas. We're not just floating. All this stuff is tethered to concepts from the philosophers and thoughts. And you're being manipulated by them. So it's kind of good to know. Sometimes it's good to be manipulated. I mean, after all, we are sheep, and Jesus is the good shepherd. After all, we are being moved by the unmovable mover. But as Bob Dylan says, you got to serve somebody. It might be the devil, and it might be the Lord, but you're going to have to serve somebody. So it's kind of good to figure out which one's best and which way to go. So now God is the first principle, not material, but in the order of efficient cause, which must be most perfect. God has an objective in mind, which is the final cause, the purpose. For just as matter as such is merely potential, an agent as such is the state of actuality. The stone is just potential. It could have been anything. That same stone that Michelangelo worked on could have been anything, but it actually became the statue of David because of the efficient cause, Michelangelo's thoughts and direction, and his final cause, the statue of David he had in his mind when he started. Hence, the first active principle must needs be most actual and therefore most perfect, for a thing is perfect in proportion to its state of actuality, because we call that perfect which lacks nothing of the mode of its perfection. Once something is finished, we call it perfect. It's like when you're working on something, guy's trying to build a fire, and he's putting the wood together in a certain form and shape, and then the other guys are watching him because they also know how to build a fire. Let's say he's doing the TP kind instead of the 4 square stack kind of wood burning thing, and that it's not working right. The pieces of wood are off balance and they're falling, and then finally they get to a certain way and everybody goes, that's perfect. That's something we do all the time. That's perfect. Or you're working on something, beavers on a galleon, we see this picture come up and we go, I don't know. And then this one, that's good. But, and then the other one, oh, that's perfect. We just know it's perfect. And we use that word perfect, not meaning that there is absolutely no flaw in these pieces of wood, or there's absolutely no flaw. It's the so divine perfection, beavers on a galleon picture. That's not what we're saying. We're saying for what it is, for the end goal we have in mind of building the fire, that's perfect. Okay, reply to objection 1. As Gregory says, though our lips can only stammer, we yet chant the high things of God.
Before that, turning of the page.
Turning of the page, sponsored by craigkinsey.locals.com. Guys, go to Locals. We're going to be getting it to where the nickel will drop. You can put the quarter in soon, but you can still kind of do that, right? You can still make your possible donation.
Yeah.
And
I'd love
also,
to
you can
get
just
it
become part of the group. Pretty soon, we're going to start doing stuff on that. I've been doing stuff on Instagram, but I'll probably, once I get all this going, start doing things on locals too, just for you guys, for the locals crew, showing stuff I'm doing around. I baked bread yesterday. First time since I got here, I'm starting to get things cleared out a little bit, and I made this super sweet loaf of bread. I may tell you about the bread later, but I want to get further on in here before I start yammering again. All right. Reply to objection 1. As Gregory says, though our lips can only stammer, we yet chant the high things of God. For that which is not made is improperly called perfect. Nevertheless, because created things are then called perfect, when from potentiality they are brought into actuality, this word perfect signifies whatever is not wanting in actuality, whether this be by way of perfection or not. That's what I was saying about the wood. He's not by way of perfect perfection, but by way of the goal that we have in mind for the fire. Now this wood stacking is perfect. It's come into its actuality. Before it was just wood in the forest, potential fire, potential building stack for the fire, wood stack for fire. And then you went out into the woods, you found all the pieces, you brought them back, and everybody sets up, and all the guys say that's perfect, and then you say it's actualized. It was potential, and now it's actual. Reply to objection 2. The material principle, which with us is found to be imperfect, cannot be absolutely primal. I love how it says with us. Remember, I've said before, when you're reading scripture, you have to realize it toggles back and forth between the divine perspective and the human perspective, sometimes even in one sentence. So you have to be able to realize when that's happening. And when he says with us, he means with us, the royal with we. He's talking about me, you, Germ, Mike, white bread, everybody, us, with us. Material things, which is found as imperfect, cannot be absolutely primal. But where did the material principle, which with us is found to be imperfect, cannot be absolutely primal, but must be preceded by something perfect. In this world, with us, things come into act by something before it, which is acting upon it. For seed, though it be the principle of animal life produces through seed, has previous to it the animal or plant which it came from. That's very clear, but the acorn becomes the tree, but you don't have an acorn unless you have a tree. That's why there's this what came first, the chicken or the egg question. Because previous to that which is potential must be that which is actual, since a potential being can only be reduced into act by some being already actual. That's going back to the 5 ways. Nothing can become actual unless something before it was already actualized. This is just science. There was a time when there were fundamentalists who said that the dinosaur bones in the earth were put there by God miraculously to test our faith. Have you heard that one before, Joe?
Yeah.
I think that was back in
That one.
maybe that was late 1800s, or probably, I think maybe 1950s. They had that school thing where they were trying to teach evolution in school and get the Bible out of it and
Right.
all that. And some of these evangelicals, something a Catholic would never say, because we have the fides et ratio teaching that everything has to be rational and make sense. And faith is not sub-rational. It's not, oh, this doesn't make sense rationally, so we ignore it and just believe. That's, well, the word is ridiculous. But what the Catholic Church teaches is God has created a rational order, and that's God's doing. Sometimes, though, he can override it, and it's super rational, not sub-rational. Our reason can show why this is done, and then we have to go above reason to the divine things, which our reason is limited, but the divine light is eternal and not limited. So it's that we use reason almost like that ladder, and the little dove finally gets to fly and leave the her hiding spot. She gets to fly off. That is faith. Faith brings you not, it doesn't destroy reason. It builds off of reason like a staircase and then fly away home. Reply to objection 3. Existence is the most perfect of all things, for it is compared to all things as that by which they are made actual. For nothing has actuality except so far as it exists. Hence, existence is that which actuates all things, even their forms. For Aristotle and them, the forms are hidden. Remember, the argument came between Plato and Aristotle, where are the forms? We know there's form because the accidents, the color, the shape, the dimension, Aristotle's 5 categories, action, passion, time, space, posture, all that stuff. We can see it. This has a posture. I have a place I am. You can see the accidents, but you can't see the form. The accidents just manifest the hidden form that you can't see. And so the question was, where are the forms? And Plato said they are in heaven. And Thomas said, no, the forms are in the thing. Can you start to see why there's a debate more and more? I hope it's becoming more and more clear. Believe me, once we get to the end of even this book, remember there's a lot more of these. There's more of these books, aren't there, Joe? Are there 4 or 5 of them?
More than that. Hold on.
There's more than 5 books in the Summa Theologica?
7.
There are 7.
I mean, in our set that we're using.
In our set that we're using. But still, the point remains, I think Father Gregory Pine had one that was just one book. Huge, big
Right.
tome like that
massive.
Bible. Massive. But these things will become more and more clear as time goes on, everyone. And you can contemplate them in your prayer time with the Lord, with your coffee and your pipe. I thought I heard something out there. Therefore, it is not compared to other things as the receiver is to the received, but rather as the received to the receiver. When, therefore, I speak of the existence of man or horse or anything else, existence is considered a formal principle and as something received, and not as that which exists. Existence is, when he's talking about it, existence is shared by all things. Shared by all things as received because we participate in being. But God is pure act. He is the act of existence itself. We are participating in it like the wood participates in the fire. So whenever I speak of existence of man or horse or anything else, existence is considered a formal principle and as something received. We're receiving the existence from the first principle, which is the efficient cause, that which is commonly referred to as God, and not as that which exists. All right, that was Article 1. We're about done here, Joe. Let's see what time we got. We're about done. Man, it's still. Someday I'm going to do a short class. We do have another one of those pages coming up soon.
That's true. So that one will only be like 30 minutes.
Yeah. We'll do one even shorter. I'll try. I'll super try. Article 2, whether the perfections of all things are in God. Objection 1, Larry says, it seems that the perfections of all things are not in God, for God is simple, as shown above. Q3A7. Whereas the perfections of things are many and diverse, therefore the perfections of all things are not in God. Oh, Larry, we're going to hear the answer to that question tomorrow. We can buzz through these because they're just objections, and we're going to probably repeat them tomorrow. Objection 2, further, opposites cannot coexist. Now, the perfections of things are opposed to each other. For each thing perfected by its specific difference. But the differences by which genera are divided and species constituted are opposed to each other. Heat and cold are opposed to each other. You can't be hot, cold at the same time. Or light and darkness, or black shirt, white page, they're opposites. So how can it be that these things can't coexist? So they can't. Now, these perfections, remember when we say perfection, we mean it's brought into actuality. These perfections of hot and cold can't both be in God because they're opposed. Can't be perfectly hot and perfectly cold. That's what Ralph's trying to say. What are you saying, St. Thomas? Therefore, because opposites cannot coexist in the same subject, it seems that the perfections of all things are not in God. Objective 3. Further, a living thing is more perfect than what merely exists. And so a living thing like a plant is better than that which just exists, like a rock. Even though they both share existence, they both participate in existence, the plant can do more, it's more living, it's more noble. And the intelligent thing is more noble than that which merely lives. The horse is better than the plant because it can move around and do things, and the dolphin's better than the horse, and the humans are better than that because we have the rational ability to see a final telos and act according to that final end. That's reason. Therefore, life is more perfect than existence. That which merely exists like a rock, life is better than that. So life is better than existence. And knowledge, you said it's better to be a horse than a plant, not because it has knowledge. Knowledge is better than life then, if the plant's just life. But the essence of God is existence. Therefore, he has not the perfections of life or the perfections of knowledge and other similar perfections. That's actually pretty clever. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a clever question. And Thomas will hit it up tomorrow. I think we've done sufficient for the day, Joe. We don't need to go into everything all the time. What do you think? Anything to add, anything to say, or should I go smoke my pipe?
Nothing on my end, man.
All right.
That was a
Guys,
good one, dude.
remember, this is all straw. Go and contemplate it like the little dove under the staircase. Talk about it with your friends and bros and your wife and get the feminine genius. And come back tomorrow for more Daily Summa. We're done.
All right.